welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be about the USDA Direct Loan. I did one of these videos recently and there was a lot of things that I wanted to include in the video that I didn't, and I've had a couple of questions. So this video is going to be about the closing process of the USDA Direct Loan, how much it cost and what it was like and the requirements and all that good stuff. So I wrote a little bit of stuff down so I don't forget anything that I want to share with you guys. So somebody had asked what were your out-of-pocket fees. First off, when you put in the application, you have to pay the $25 credit report fee. And then after you get approved, you have to take a home buyers class, and those were all online ever since COVID started. They did have like face-to-face classes, but now everything is online. I think there's always been an option to do it online anyways, but the in-person classes I think are free, and the online classes charge money. So for that, there's also like multiple different ones that you can pick from, and the one that we picked was $75. And then so whenever you put in an offer on a house, you are supposed to put an earnest deposit down, and that just lets the seller know that you are very serious, you definitely want to buy the house and all that stuff. So I don't know what is like the average price, but in my area, our realtor was trying to have us put $1,000 earnest deposit down, but we did not have $1,000, so we told the realtor we would like to do $500 and that's it. So every time we put in an offer on a house, we would put the $500 earnest deposit down. And you do have to have that money in within like 2 business days or something like that. If they accept your offer, you have 2 days to give them the earnest deposit money. So make sure like you actually have the cash and you can afford it. Those were the out-of-pocket fees, and then you have to do the inspection once they accept your offer. I think you have 10, or at least we had 10 days to do the inspection and give the sellers an inspection response. This house that we are living in is not the first house that we put in an offer and did an inspection and all that. The first home, we loved it so much, we thought that it was meant for us. The main thing that we wanted was property. I don't care if we lived in a mobile home, as long as we had privacy and some property. That was our main thing that we cared about. And we found a house that was on 5 acres, and it had a huge fenced in backyard. Like 2 of the acres was fenced in, and there was a privacy fence on this side so you couldn't see neighbors over there, and then this side had great big pine trees so you couldn't see the neighbors on that side, and the property was just super nice. The house was super nice too. I love the house too. It was just a 1-story 1,800 square foot home, but it had 4 bedrooms. It only had 1 bathroom. Everything was modern and nice and updated and all that stuff. So we were super interested in that house. We put in an offer. They ended up rejecting our offer, and I was like so bummed about it. Like I wanted that house so bad. And a couple of days later, our realtor called and said the people whose offer they had accepted above ours, they never showed up to turn in their earnest deposit. So now we were the backups. He wanted to call to see if we wanted to put in an offer, and we're like, yes. I'm so excited. So we put in the offer, another offer. They accepted it this time, and then we got to the inspection part. And so for that inspection, it was $475. There's all different home inspectors, and even if they're like out of your area, both of mine were, and they'll drive to your area. As long as they're in your state, you could call them and get an estimate and just call around, find out the cheapest one, but also one that does a good job. So our first one, we went with the cheapest guy, and he wasn't the best home inspector. And my other tip is to be there for the entire process, because our first one, so we were new at this, we stayed for about a half an hour. We had somewhere we had to be, plus it kind of felt like we were like in his way, you know, like following him around and everything. We didn't really know how to act in that situation because it was our first time. But so we just left after like a half an hour, and then he had ended up calling like 4 hours later or something and said he couldn't, like, he didn't do his whole job that we had paid him to do because he was supposed to check the attic space, and in that house, the attic was above the washer and dryer, and his excuse was that he couldn't scoot the dryer out to be able to get into the attic, which I can move a dryer, you know, so that made me mad because we had paid him to do that, and if he wouldn't come back to do that, then we were gonna have to pay somebody else to come out there just to do that, even though we had paid him to do it, you know. That's why my advice is to stay there during the whole inspection process. So anyways, that house ended up having foundation issues, which is one of the worst things that could be wrong with the house. And so I think with like an FHA loan or something, you can ask the sellers to fix it and they can agree to fix it, but they have until, like, you can go ahead and close on the home and they can pay with like the funds from selling the house to get it fixed. But with USDA, the home has to be move-in, safe, ready to go. And foundation issues obviously isn't very safe. So with USDA, they had to get the foundation problem fixed before we could close. And it was like a $60,000 job. There was no contractors even available to do it. The sellers do not have $60,000 up front to get this problem fixed, so they just couldn't sell it to us. And we did get the earnest deposit back because it was something out of our control. So you do get the earnest deposit back, but you do not get the home inspection fee back. So my advice would be to bring somebody with you if you know anybody that's knowledgeable about structural issues and major things that could be wrong with a house before you pay for the inspection, because you're just going to be out all that money if it doesn't work out for you, and that sucks. On this house, this is our second house that we put the offer in, the seller accepted, and we actually went through the process again. So with this house, it has a septic tank and it had well water. So those are extra, you have to do that with USDA. You have to get the water tested and the septic tank tested with the USDA. So those are all extra fees that's added on to the home inspection. And also you have to have a termite inspection done, and those do not come with like the average home inspection fee. Those are extra things that you have to add on that cost more money. So for this house, it was $675 for an inspection, plus we had gotten a better qualified inspector that charged a little more money, but he was worth it. Okay, so for this house, you're at the $25 credit check fee, which I'll tell you why I'm counting that fee in at the end, but the $25 for that, $75 for the home buyers class, $500 for the earnest deposit, and then $675 for the inspection. The inspection with this house, we were more cautious about it. Our realtor was, he was actually a contractor too, so he was like, he could tell you by walking through the house, like, if there was a structural problem and stuff. For this house, it was all pretty much minor things like, and I don't even know what USDA actually would have made us have to fix, because you do the inspection response yourself and then you turn it in. So the inspection response is where you say, I want this, this, and this fixed that showed on the inspection report, and are you willing to fix it or not? And the seller can agree or disagree to that. So you do all that, and then after you have the completed paperwork back, then you give it to your loan officer, and then she'll tell you like, hey, you left this out and this needs to be fixed, and then you have to do like a counter thing. So we had just went through and put everything that we had thought that USDA would require of us and sent that to the sellers and hoped that we had included everything. And USDA is all about like, it has to be safe for your family to move into. So some of the stuff was like the stair rail was too close to the wall, So like if you fell down the stairs, you wouldn't be able to grab a hold of it to stop yourself. So that's a safety thing. We put that on there. The hot and cold water was a safety concern. It's just something simple, like the knobs were, it's supposed to be hot and cold, but the knobs was reversed, so the cold was actually the hot side, and it's a safety concern because you could burn yourself with hot water, It was all just like very minor things like that. And then we needed like a new dryer vent hose. The inspector said it was like some type of safety concern, so we put that on there. It was all very easy, cheap things that I knew that the seller would agree to do. But then, since this house that we purchased was built in 1899 and it has all original windows, and I thought for sure that USDA would make us have to replace the windows because they're obviously not energy efficient. So we had put that on the inspection response, and then we got the response back and they agreed to fix everything except they would not replace windows. And we called around and got estimates, and it was going to be about $8,000 to get all new windows in this house, and they did not want to do that. And I wrote our loan officer and I asked, like, is this something that has to be done? Because it came down to like, if we were just they weren't gonna sell the house to us. If we came back at them like, no, you have to fix the windows, and if they really didn't want to fix them, then we would have just been out of this house and out of the inspection fee again, and we were getting so discouraged. We're like, this house has to go through. I wrote the loan officer and asked if the windows was like something that absolutely had to be done, and she wrote back and said, yes, if the sellers are willing to pay for that, then you need to do that, but it's not a requirement from us or anything. And I'm like, oh, thank God. So I told our realtor, like, forget it. We don't need new windows. That's something we'll just do at a different time. I just want this house. So anyways, yeah, USDA was like so easygoing about everything that needed done, as long as it's like minor things. The first house was foundation issues. That's a major problem. And so yeah, that was an issue. But then all the other stuff, they can be kind of nitpicky, I think, about what needs to be fixed, but it's also not a big deal because everything was like cheap that needed fixed. Oh, so then the next step after you do the inspection response, and that you guys, the seller and you both agree to, the next step is that the USDA appraiser has to come appraise the house. And I had read the little bit of information I could find about the USDA Direct Loans. What I did read online was that the appraisal process was the worst part about the whole process because it took so long. We had put on our offer that we could close in 30 days. So I was kind of worried that the appraisal process would take too long. We'd be past that 30 days, and I didn't know what would happen if we weren't able to close in that time frame. But appraiser, he came. It only took like a week for the appraiser to come. But he ran into some issues that I did not know that an appraiser could say, this, and this needs to get fixed on the house. I had no idea. I thought that the appraiser just came and said the house is worth this much money. But no, he says the house is worth this much money if this, and this, and this is fixed. So that came up to, there was more things that needed to get fixed. And one was that these, like I said, we have the original windows from 1899, and they're ran off a counterweight system, and some of the weights were broken inside. Those had to be repaired or replaced. Our realtor, he's a contractor, I think I mentioned that, and the sellers actually hired our realtor to do the work around here to get us all to close on this house as fast as possible. So we just told him about it. We actually went and bought also the sellers hadn't lived in this house for like 6 months, and they lived like a few hours away. We lived right down the road from here, so it was easy for us to just come here and meet the realtor and come in and do what needed to get done to get it fixed, since it was all minor things that anybody could pretty much do themselves. So like I said, the sellers had hired our realtor to do this work around the house. So my husband and I just went and picked up the parts for the windows. They were like $2 or $3 a piece, and we needed like 8 of them. And we just went and bought them, met the realtor over here. He installed them. It took him like 2 minutes literally. And then we were done with that issue. And then the next issue that the appraiser had was he could not find the well. This house was ran off of a well, and he could not locate the well. And in order to close on this home, the well had to be located. So we had came out here, my husband and I, we had 2 of our friends come over. We had a probe. We went walking around the whole property, probing the yard, and we could not find the well. We talked to the neighbors. They didn't know where the well was. We got a hold of the previous owner, the sellers that we were buying from. They didn't know anything where the well was. We got a hold of the sellers before them, and he gave us like a general idea where he thought that it was, and we had probed everywhere around there, couldn't find it. And it came down to like the sellers was gonna have to pay somebody to come locate the well, and we had called around to get estimates, and the cheapest place was $1,800 just for them to tell you where the well is. And that was crazy. Or it could get hooked up to city water. Oh, and something that I forgot to mention was, so we had the water test back, and it had came back that it was contaminated with coliform, which is bad. But we talked to a bunch of well specialists, and they said it was probably, the well probably actually wasn't contaminated, and the issue was that the inspector got the sample from the kitchen sink, which I guess you're not supposed to do. It's supposed to be taken like directly from the well source or the closest place to the well, because the kitchen can be messy. You can get food and stuff splashed on there, and it can make your test results like a false positive for coliform. So we weren't too worried about it, and our loan officer hadn't mentioned anything to us about it, so we just wasn't going to say anything and try to close on the home. But the appraiser said that the well needed to be located, and like I said, they were going to charge $1,800 to locate the well, or there was the option to get this house hooked up to city water, which is what my husband and I had planned to do in the near future anyways after we bought this house. And that was going to be $1,500 to just hook onto city. We wouldn't have to worry about contaminated water and all that stuff. We ended up having to tell the sellers, like, look, you're gonna have to, we can't close on this house until the water source is located. And we've went way out of our way to do everything else that we can to get a close on this house, and this is up to you. You can get it hooked up to city water, or we're just gonna walk. And they agreed to get it hooked up to city water. So that delayed the closing process by like another 2 weeks. So I had this wrote down, but we had put in our offer in May, and we were supposed to close on June 10th or something like that. And then because of the whole water situation, the final day we ended up closing was July 13th. So it was like 45 days. We were supposed to close in 30, but we had to push it out to like 45 days. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about was actually like closing, going to the office and closing. Okay, we were approved for $250,000, but we bought this house for $219,000. $30,000 left over. And our original plan, and something that you are able to do with this loan, is if you get the house, like if you have money left over, that like you didn't go up to your maximum spending limit, with that extra money, you can fix up the house, get new flooring, you can get new appliances, stuff like that. So we had planned on turning the basement into a living space. We were gonna get flooring down there and build an extra bathroom out of that money. And that's something that you can totally do. But with this house, our issue was because of its age, it probably has lead paint in here. And USDA makes like there's a big deal about safety concerns, like I said. And because of the lead paint, if we wanted to have any work like that done, then there was all these extra steps we had to go through. We had to register the home with the historic homes or something like that. And we had to get like lead certified people to come do the work, and they wouldn't be able to get paid until, I can't even remember. There was just a lot of extra that went just because of the age of this home. But if you move into a house then it's full of old carpet and you want some wood flooring and you have extra money left, then you're able to do that. You just have to tell your loan officer before they do the appraisal, so that when the appraiser comes out, the appraisal will be based off of it having new flooring instead of carpet or whatever you're wanting to do. You are able to do that. We just couldn't, all because of the age of this house. We can at a later date, and it's really cool because I can't remember the name of this specific loan, but it's another loan that we can add on to what we already have, and they only charge a 1% interest rate. It makes it like really affordable if we wanted to do that. After we've been here for a while, we're gonna try to fix it up ourselves as we go and not have this extra loan amount that we have to worry about paying. But it's a nice option, especially like my husband, he's allergic to cats, and if we were to get a home with carpet and somebody had cats that lived in there, I would definitely want to be able to replace the flooring. So that's really nice about that. As long as you get a house that is before a 1970 something, I think if it's like prior to 1970, that's when they start worrying about lead paint. So as long as you get a newer home and you want new floors, then or new appliances or anything that you want to be able to do to update the home, if you have money left to be able to do that, then you can do that. So also, it's best to get a home that is not, you don't want to go all the way up to your max, because if you do, then your closing cost you have to pay out of pocket, and to close it's like $4,000. If you spend under your limit, like we were approved for $250,000, we only paid $219,000 for this home, so we had the $30,000 or whatever left over, so our closing costs were covered, and we even got all of our money back. So I forgot to mention, you have to pay a year's worth of homeowner's insurance up front too. And you can shop around, but the cheapest one that we were able to find was about $1,000 for the first year. You have to pay it up front. So we had the $500 earnest deposit, the $675 home inspection, the $25 credit check, $75 home buyer's class, and then about $1,000 for the 1 year home insurance. And at closing, we got all of that money back. So I had to give the loan officer all the receipts of all these items, and then this adds up to a little over $2,000, and at closing we got a little over $1,800 back. So I don't know what fees out of there that they didn't give back, but there were some things, because this adds up to over $2,000. We got $1,800 back at closing in our pocket. Most of the amount that we paid to put into the house, we got it back at the end. So that was amazing. You need to have like a couple $1,000 put back in the beginning, but you do get that money returned to you as long as you buy a house under your maximum price range. If you go all the way up to your max, like we were approved for $250,000, if we would have bought a house for $250,000, then we would have had to pay the closing costs, because there wasn't anything extra out of our loan to cover that. And like I said, it's like $3,000 to $4,000. So try to find something under your range, or put in an offer so that you at least have, I'd say $5,000 to be perfectly safe. Put $5,000 under your max to be able to cover all the closing costs, and then you get it back in your pocket at the end, and it makes it so much easier for your first month of living there. Your payment is due 30 days after your closing date, so that money comes in really handy to help while you're trying to get settled in and everything. But yeah, I think I have covered everything that I wanted to say about closing on a home with the USDA Direct Loan. If you have any questions, then please leave them in the comments below. And if I know the answer to them, or regardless, I'll respond to you. Hopefully I'll know the answer to your question. I hope that you found this video helpful. I do plan on making another video about the USDA Direct program, because there's just so much information on this that I can't fit into one video. My video would just get way too long. Please subscribe if you want to see my future videos. And that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.